This episode is dedicated to the late Marty Smith. He was a three-time AMA motocross champion and an AMA Hall of Fame member. He will be remembered as America's first motocross superstar and will forever live in our hearts as a hero and legend. Rest in peace, my friend. Hey, Real Talk 447 listeners, Jeff Emig here. RC and I are so excited for this episode you're about to hear. But before we get started, we need to acknowledge the amazing partners that we have for the show. Starting with Rocky Mountain ATVMC.com. They are the online leader for parts, apparel, and accessories. Looking for the best bike wash products on the planet? SlickProducts.com has just what you need to keep your motorcycle, ATV, UTV, hell, even your truck, trailer, van, and motorhome looking mint. Looking for a new set of bars and grips? ODIGrips.com can set you up with the products for your dirt bike, V-twin, watercraft, UTV, and bicycles. RC and I both run the Emig Pro V2 lock-on grips and the RC4 handlebars. And finally, if you're in the market for some new riding gear, check out foxracing.com. Their online shop is still up and running despite the COVID-19 crisis, and they're running free shipping on any order, and there's no minimum required. Now, get comfortable, because our guest today is a living legend and one of my motocross heroes. You might laugh, you might cry, but I guarantee this will be the best hour of content you hear all week.
Said if you can't win, wreck someone who can.
Exactly.
I knew I wasn't winning that.
Why do people not get out of the fast lane?
Every time I see that picture of you riding around with that big ass fro you're wearing, I still get pissed.
It was that night I said preparate, but I didn't say what I wasn't supposed to say, and that's A1.
Hey everybody, welcome to Real Talk 447. I am Jeff Emig, coming to you from Corona, California. And always joining me is Ricky Carmack from Tallahassee, Florida. And as you can tell, I'm excited. So drum roll, please. Welcome to the show. Too Hip, Magic Man, the bad boy. Some people call him RJ. His parents called him Richard Harvey Johnson. Welcome to the show, Ricky Johnson. How are you, buddy?
Good. And it's actually Richard Bernard Johnson Jr. So I was the second.
Well, you got to fix your Wikipedia page then.
How would you call me?
Harvey.
No, it's Bernard. It's Bernard. And two, and the sad part is that my dad was Richard Johnson Sr., so he was Dick Johnson, and so I was this close to being Little Dick Johnson. That would have, it's not funny, is it?
I love it. What an intro.
What are you laughing at? It's so funny.
I told you were going to laugh. Now all you got to do is make us cry sometime. I'm actually crying right now too, all in one, and we just started the damn show.
Well, then that's the other thing, because we could talk about all the different stuff that's going on, but you know what, I'm really, really grateful for the how the people from the health, because I had COVID. Well, let's get that out of the way really quick. Had COVID, healed up, was really great. But it was pretty awesome because I got this message that, kind of a follow-up, and you can hear it.
This is an important message from the CDC. You have been recognized as someone who has been in direct contact with a person or persons who have COVID-19 coronavirus. You are required to remain where you are and self-quarantine for 14 days, and possibly more due to your small wiener. Tiny wieners have in more quarantine days. Wiener size like yours could triple your time. Please be advised that you have a tiny weenie.
It's amazing because, they stuck that Q-tip so far up my head, but I didn't know they were measuring my wiener at the time.
Yeah, I didn't know that was part of the testing process.
Didn't know that, but really want to thank the Health Commission for sending me that message this morning.
You didn't know you had friends like that, huh, RJ?
And who knows? I thought I was kind of proud of my weenie, but evidently, who knew?
Hey, as long as you're happy and the boss lady's happy, who cares, man?
Hey, 29 years, 3 kids, it works.
That's right. Hey, so I gotta we got to get this right off the top. We got to get this out of the way because RC's got a little story that he wants to tell you. I'm not sure if you've heard this before, but we're going to tell it on Real Talk.
You know where I'm going with this, RJ.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then I might have a couple follow-ups on that too.
Probably.
All right, well, let's hear your story, RC.
1987 Tampa Supercross. Always looked up to RJ for several reasons.
Well, you look up to everybody, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Easy.
He can't help himself, RJ. So anyhow, we're at Tampa Stadium, and I always looked up to RJ. I mean, you go back to '87. I mean, you had a lot of great years for sure. I mean, but dude, those were some memorable moments, especially for me, because that's when I was first kind of getting into watching Supercross and knowing who was who. Anyhow, sat at his box fan all day long. He comes back, and I'm like, man, I just want to tell this guy that I had the same name as he does. And I told him, and he completely blew me off so bad that your guy Lunas, and RJ denies it to the day, but Lunas felt so bad for me that he gave me a pair of Oakley grips. You're using Oakley grips at the time.
So we're responsible for you becoming an Oakley guy.
Pretty much.
Wow, way to redirect. You can tell this guy's been. You can tell this guy's been married for a while.
He's a marketing.
So hold on now. I call bullshit because you and your mom have now told two different stories. All right. For one, all right. When I got the first story, when I denied it, when me, you, and Jeannie were having a couple cocktails in Vegas, and she proceeded to chew my ass out, because I was like, always wondering why. What's with the chip on the shoulder? I don't get it. And she's like, and you're like, tell him, Mom, tell him. And so she's like, so here's what happened. You were signing autographs for all day, and Ricky was so shy he wouldn't say anything. So he just sat next to you all day. And then right when you were done, he walked up and he said, hey, my name's Ricky too. And you said, sorry, kid, I got no time for you. No way, I would never do that. But now the story comes back that I'm walking to my box man. So I think if I did, and I said this then, and I'll say it again, it breaks my heart that I would ever do anything like that, especially to a little kid because back then you had like an afro, like your red hair and you're like dirty.
Clown hair.
That's the way little kids were, man. You're dirty faced. You're this kid right here. Hold on a second.
Oh man.
Oh boy, here we go.
That's the kid that you are right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Dirty face, goggles on, helmet, ready to moto. Okay. And because I was that guy, I did the same thing, stood there, wanted to talk to Marty Smith, and his dad's like, saw me all uncomfortable. Was like, hey, I'd like you to meet Ricky Johnson and this and that. So I apologize for that.
Hey, you did. I just had to razz you a little bit. You know, that's the only good RJ story I got, because you were just like, I didn't get to see you a lot because you guys are always based in Cali. Only time I got to see you really was when you came to Tampa. I never went to Daytona while you were racing, but and I saw you at Gatorback obviously several times for the MX National. But regardless, even though that whatever the hell happened, still it was so fun to watch you. And I feel like those were some of the best times, especially in my memory. You guys were, the parody, it was so good, you know?
Well, it was growing. I mean, it was becoming, Supercross was coming out. Magazines were more colorful. There wasn't just like Cycle World and Dirt Bike. There was Supercross, the magazine. There was Mini Cycle Action. There was Dirt Bike. There was Motocross Action. Then Transworld came out. And so that part became, and then all of a sudden, then videos. Because I mean, I didn't get to watch any videos. There was on any Sunday, you know, and then there was ABC Wild World of Sports. Other than that, you didn't get to see it. You had to like go searching for it. So anytime that you found it, you were just like totally stoked. And so you were part of that era of it's growing and crazy ads and the Fox ads and all the different stuff. And so for you, man, it's just like, that's unattainable. It was an attainable dream, but it's something you could now all of a sudden it's cool. It's not just this backwoods bunch of well, it still is a bunch of rednecks running around the woods, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well,
it's bigger than life almost.
Yeah.
For
so
me.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, RJ. Just You have been a
nervous?
part.
Are you nervous, Jeff? A little
No,
bit?
I've been cranking down the espressos today.
Oh, you're not on the Jameson yet?
No, I got more meetings later. So, RJ, you truly, you mentioned the ads. You truly have done some of the greatest ads in motocross, which obviously resonate through different sports. Probably starting with the Oakley ad when you had the, not sure what you'd call that.
Zebra
we're taking a
print
look.
or whatever
Yeah,
across my face.
the zebra print, the Fox boot ad where you did the thinking man. So you were nude with the new Fox racing boot on. A lot of cool Fox stuff. I came across the one with the bird. There's like a parakeet or something that you had. I mean, was that those type of advertisements? I would assume that the creative directors saw something in you that hey, this is a personality that we can work with on this. Talk about those times.
Well, as you said, none of them were my ideas. They were all, so the painted face, there was, I can't think of her name, blonde-haired girl from the 80s. Anyhow, there was a movie, and she was like this African princess that didn't have a man, and, and so they painted her face. Well, so Jim Gennard, obviously the owner of Oakley at the time, it was his idea. So I worked very close with Jim and Duke, and then Mike Bell came on, and then Lewis Wellen, and then, or actually Greg Arnett, and so on and so on and so on, all the way down to Paggio. But it was Jim would always do these ideas. And so he's a real creative guy, had cameras and stuff like that. So at the time, like, I think the coolest Oakley ad is the bomber ad. It shows a picture of him with like that red line of the stealth bomber. That was really cool. And then just the ones where they had just the helmet and the rider, and it was Wardy and Ocho, Smitty. Those were classic. And so they did the one of me, the Lone Ranger. It was kind of stupid, but I wore a bandana. I thought it was cool at the time. So he says, hey, come up, I got this idea. So every now and then Jim would call me, and we'd go to dinner, and we'd talk cars or stereos or bicycles or whatever. And he's got this makeup person there. So she starts painting my face, in my nose, in my eyes, in the stuff. And actually I had like this huge fever blister on my lip from surfing and getting dehydrated. So she's trying to make up that stuff up. So they had to Photoshop my eyes, because my eyes weren't as white as the white. And they also had to Photoshop my lips so you didn't see this crater falling off my face. And so we did the shots, and then we added some red to it, and to kind of make it a little bit different. And then the fun part is after the shoot, she goes, do you want to take it off? And I'm like, nah, I'm going to go surprise some people at home. So I drove home with it. And so that was right when they first started. You had to pay at the gas station. And I forgot, legit. I had a button-up shirt on, so because I was painted from here up. And I go up and I'm like, Philip on 2, and the guy's like, oh, I'm like, what? Like, oh shit, my face and stuff. But anyway, so to clean that stuff was completely, scrubbing my ears and my nose was a pain in the ass. But that was kind of fun. And then same thing, it was after the 500 championship at Washougal. I was hungover as could be because we won the championship. And so I got on a flight to San Francisco. Pete Fox picks me up, takes me down to the full gate part of San Francisco. It's like the leather boot hill and blah, blah, blah. There's, all this crazy stuff. We walk in, and I see this rock sitting in the middle with lights, and this picture of Roldan, the thinker. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? He goes, well, you got to go in and shave your legs and get everything going. And so I had the tan lines from bicycling at the time. So I had to put makeup on my ass and kind of tie everything in. So I didn't have a big hard tan line. And so we sat there and did a couple, and then we took a couple Polaroids. So I just kind of turned around and showed my ass and held my junk, and kept those for my fiance, now my wife of 29 years. So yeah, I think it was just my willingness to laugh at myself and to do something crazy, because both the naked ad, that opened a can of worms, man. Because I was a Christian guy. I still am a Christian guy, but I'm saying that all of a sudden people are coming on and saying that I'm promoting pornography and that I'm a Satan worshiper and all this stuff. And I was like, well, it doesn't really say it's me.
Yeah.
So then now it's like the trend. Everyone's showing up naked.
I wanted to take a quick break from this highly entertaining show with RJ to tell you about this week's Rocky Mountain ATVMC.com promo. It's for the Fox Racing Seek and Destroy t-shirt. Normally retails for $12.99, but if you use the offer code 447SEEK, you can get it for $9.99. The offer code is good for 48 hours after the show posts. So, again, go to RockyMountainATVMC.com, use the promo code 447SEEK, and get the Fox Racing Seek and Destroy t-shirt for only $9.99. Limit 2 per order. Well, you were the original bad boy, and that era back in the 80s. I mean, even from the Rodale Cup, where you wore the I believe it was the Life's a Beach shorts over your riding pants.
Yep.
And that night on the PA system and television, you had some pretty outspoken comments about the structure of that race and that whole thing. But you definitely had that edge to you, and the bad boy when all that came about with, I believe that was with No Fear, or was that with Life's a Beach?
That was Life's a Beach.
Life's a Beach. It was so fitting. It didn't seem like something that was constructed in a marketing office.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing was that because out of being stupid or whatever, or arrogant or vain or whatever, I wanted to try to look good. You know, you don't want to be the ugly guy in school, you know, and maybe I was overcompensating because I definitely wasn't the smart kid in the school and stuff like that. So if I could be the guy that can dance with girls and ride motorcycles, I wasn't a tough guy either. I got in a couple fights, but I didn't like fighting. I kind of scared to death of getting the shit kicked out of me. I think every young guy is, but so I wasn't the tough guy. I wasn't the smart guy. So I had to be the fast guy. And so I wanted to be the smooth guy. And so part of that was obviously through the 80s was trying to do your hair bitching and trying to wear clothes. Like some of the clothes that I wore, I cringe at some of the shit that I used to wear. And
dude, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
All right. I lived through the 90s. It was like the 60s were to rock and roll is what the 90s were to motocross.
I just feel too, like even the companies though, RJ, that you were associated with, your partners, I mean, they knew that you were willing to do that and put yourself out there. And at the end of the day, I don't remember any of the negativity. I always remember the positive stuff, and everything that you were doing was so trendy, so cool. I mean, you were just, you know, I think a sponsor's dream back then. I think when you would talk on the microphone, people would listen. Just your approach, your voice, everything about it was just, you know, everyone would sit there. You could hold the court, no problem, and you could back it up. And you know, some people today would say, "Oh, that had to be a distraction." But it seemed like you had the balance. You could do all that killer marketing, personal marketing stuff, not only for yourself, but your partners, and still get out there and kick ass.
Well, and that was the thing, is that I had great people to look up to. You know, it's like, I tell people that I'm a hodgepodge of a lot of different people. It would have been very easy for me to just follow Brock Glover. I mean, the guy was, he had good looks, he had money, he trained like an unbelievable deal, but I felt there was holes in Brock's game. I could have went after Marty Smith's deal. Good looking, the poster boy, was really the guy that brought the money up, good looking, this and that, but I felt there was holes in his game. Mike Bell, same thing, soft spoken, this and that, hard racer, blah, blah, but there's holes in his game. Bob Hanna, a complete asshole, but the most unbelievable, tenacious racing wild man there ever. I mean, just the one at Unadilla with him using those Scott boots, they were the most ridiculous thing. Good for your ankles, but you couldn't hold onto the bike.
Yeah.
And then I had Jimmy Weinert, who was this guy who would play mind games. He'd walk down. I hear stories about Weinert that still blow my mind. He'd walk down in front of the gate, and like Brock Glover's girlfriend at the time was named Joni. And he'd walk up and he'd go, "Hey, Brock, how's Joni?" And then keep walking. I mean, in front of him right before the race and things like that. And then he brought a pyramid. So he like sat there and meditated at the LA Coliseum because he was bringing in pyramid power. And then he ran the paddle tire and stuff like that. And so, and then you had Pierre Carsmakers, who was this crazy trainer guy. And so I always felt I was going to be the best if I could be a little bit of each. And then my dad would always say, you know, if there's a hole in your game, you got to fix it. If you want to be the highest paid, most respected rider, you know, now obviously you're going to piss off other riders. If you find a hole in your game, fix it. And that's where I go to both of you guys is that, I mean, Fro, when I met you, your stutter was so bad. It was, you know, I mean, it was debilitating to you sometimes. And for how you morphed yourself into being able to communicate and talk and flow with that is unbelievable. Same with Ricky. You know, you took a disadvantage, because I'll be straight up, to be as small as you are is a disadvantage, you know, in certain areas, but you made it a huge advantage. Like I talked about, you were so good at coming in, changing direction and going because you use your small stature. You could still go wide open through the big shit like everybody else, but when it came time to change and do stuff that you needed to do, you did that. And that's what I think is the mark of a great champion, not somebody that is in their box, and when they get pushed out of their box, that they're going to have trouble. Because if you look at the different times, I'm sorry I'm ranting here, but McGrath was so good, he would make mistakes. He was Bailey to me. Like, just everything was perfect. And I would sit there and do lap times, and Mike Craig was 2 to 3 seconds a lap faster for the first 4 laps. Now, he was 10 seconds after lap 6 slower, but I'm going, if someone can go that fast, if someone pushes hard, that's going to be who's going to really give MC a hard time. And Ricky, that's what you did. It was 10 tenths, 10 tenths, 10 tenths. But then you had somebody come in like a James Stewart who used outsides and kept momentum in that. And then when we were there together, I remember we talked in Phoenix, carrying your momentum. So you adjusted to that to come on top of that again. So that was the thing for me, was just, I'm giving you a long answer to a short question, is that I never stopped taking from people. And still to this day, I'm 55 years old, racing trucks. I'll watch my son do a certain style through a corner, break or flick or something like that, and I'm adjusting and adapting the whole time.
It's really interesting you say that, and I feel that that's one of your attributes to all the success you had in all forms of racing, not just two. I mean, you're hella talented in four wheels also. And yes, I mean, everybody thinks of Osho being my guy, but dude, when you would speak up, when we were working together a little bit at Suzuki, when I came there, you were already there, and it was like, I'm all about taking nuggets from everyone. I mean, I learned from you. I remember that conversation at Phoenix. It was super hard and real slippery. And you're like, hey, you got to approach it like this, almost like a car, you know, or you got to be, rolling through the center. You can't come in hard, can't come out hard. Anyhow, using a lot of momentum. Yeah. And I feel like to be a champion, you have to take bits from everybody. I learned, and Jeff knows this, I've had this conversation with him. I've learned from basically every teammate. I learned from Larry Ward. I've learned from Jeff Emig. I've been fortunate enough to be around good people like yourself and take what I thought was the positive from what those people were saying and apply it to my game. And just like you did, and it worked out. You were well-versed.
Hey, Ricky, what was it like growing up in the El Cajon zone, where there were so many incredible riders that really came out of a pretty small radius, 10 miles maybe?
Yeah, well, 10 miles, but if you expand it out to 20, you had Tommy Croft, you had Marty Smith, you had the Tripes brothers, Mike and Marty. You had a bunch of local guys, Bobby Sullivan, Scott Burnworth, Ron Lachine didn't come till later, Brock Glover, Murray Hoffman. I mean, there was a bunch of guys, Billy Urban and stuff. There was always fast guys because we rode everywhere. There was tracks in El Cajon. I could tell I had 10 tracks from my house that I could fill up with gas, go do a moto and come home. They were all bitchin' tracks. Most of them were really narrow and stuff, but you had the hilly track. You'd have places where housing developments like took a shit. And so that was like your supercross track to do tabletops and big jumps and stuff like that. And you would just, that was the thing. Everybody had motorcycles, had mini bikes and stuff like that. So at school, you'd say, I'll meet you at the dairy, or I'll meet you at Hippie Hollow, or I'll meet you at Brock's, or I'll meet you at this, or I'll meet you at that. And you would go. And then having, like I say, having Marty Smith be the first really factory star, but then having Brock and I were really, good friends. He was 4.5 years older than me, but he went to school with my sister and his dad and my dad. My dad actually wanted to go beat Jeff Ward and all the LA guys with Brock and Ron Turner, because those two guys were the fast guys at that time. So my dad built this miniature 100 out of my sister's mini bike, or 100 to go race them and stuff like that. So having all of that talent pool, you're always chasing somebody, and there's always someone faster. That was what was awesome.
Yeah, it had to be a lot like in the late 80s, early 90s, what Ritchie Canyon was for us, where we could just take off from the Albrecht's house. And there would be 12 or 15 of us just take off riding and go make tracks or find tracks or challenge ourselves on jumps and cliffs and all that stuff. It was a blast. Yeah.
And then you had Palm Avenue, which, like I said, you'd be at different times. You'd go down there and you'd see Mike Craig or McGrath or different guys and stuff. So it was cool because it was so raw. Like now you got RC's compound, you got James's compound, Blake Baggett's got a compound. Everyone's got these compounds in their own little private deal. But back then it was, Brock and I had a supercross track till I retired, and I was at Honda, but that was, it didn't matter.
Hey, if you had to pick one race that really put you on the map or springboarded your career, what was it?
The one that springboarded my career. So let me give you a little precursor to that, because I grew up in a different era. For one, we couldn't afford to do the NMA and the AMA stuff. We couldn't afford to travel. My dad was a house painter. I had a couple mini bikes, and so I would ride at my house and ride locally. But my dad's philosophy was, if you can't beat everybody in your own backyard, why are you going to go somewhere else and get your ass kicked? Because if you go to their backyard, like if you take a California kid to Ponca City or Loretta Lynn's, he gets his ass kicked. You know what I mean? It's like you bring those Florida guys to Carlsbad, I will wax your ass. You take me to Cocoa Beach and stuff, Kenny Keelan's going to kick the shit out of me. So that was part of his philosophy. And so I turned pro in California at 13. And so because I wanted to make money. There was no contingency. There was nothing. So I went from an 80. Brock let me borrow one of his bikes. And so I rode it. I was really small, and I got head shake a couple times. That scared the shit out of me, but I could hit the holes. You guys remember the first time you get on a bike with big wheels, it's like, this is so awesome because you're not going deep down in the holes. And so my dad says, we can't afford to do both. Pick one. So I got on that. 3 months, I turned pro and started making money. But I couldn't race pro until I was 16. So anyhow, I was kind of the Yamaha support guy. But in 1981 was my rookie year. I was a privateer. I was winning rookie of the year. Broke my left hand at Glen Helen halfway through the season. But what they did then was the first half of the season was, I think, 125, 250. The middle half was 500, 250, and the last half was 500. So they broke the year up. It was kind of weird. So I broke my hand, but I was able to take a few weeks off and get a little bit better. But it was the race at Carlsbad, the very last race of the year. And the only reason I won, and the only reason I think Osho won, is because Mark Barnett blew his shoulder apart. Barnett was so strong and so fast. So I'm going to say 2 races helped me out that year. Was I got second in 1981 at Lake Whitney, really hot. Big eye opener for me, because as soon as I got off the track, I'm ripping my clothes off. I'm just like dumping some guy's coke down my shirt. I'm dying. Here goes Mark Barnett walking. He put his bike on the stand in impound, Jofa on, goggles on top of his helmet, like nothing. And I'm like, I'm never going to be that strong. I'm never going to be that strong. And then Barnett got hurt, and I won that race, the last moto at Carlsbad. And Osho won the overall, got a 1-2, and I went 5-1. So that was the one that kind of springboarded me.
Would all of these races been AMA Pro Motocross?
Yes.
Or were they like Trans AMAs and things like that?
No. Lake Whitney was a 125. That's when they ran all 3 classes together. They went to that. Or actually, no. It might have been, I think that was a 125, 250 race because I remember Bailey was there and stuff. So, yeah, those were nationals. And that's the thing is that we didn't have a lights class. We didn't have, we didn't have a way to ease your way in. When I was a 125 pro rider, Suzuki had three pro riders. Kawasaki had 4. Yamaha had 3. Honda had 4. So just factory guys. And so
just to clarify, motocross had 3 different classes, but Supercross was just the premier class. That's it.
Yeah. So I lined up on a bike. My first race was at San Diego, and Marty Smith suckered me into the gate in the last chance qualifier, and I didn't make it. But then my next round, when I was still 16 at the time, in 1981, was at Anaheim, and I had a dice with Bob Hanna, and he kicked me and flipped me off, and I tried to kill him, and then.
Hey, RC, did you ever race Carlsbad?
I went there one time to test for the Motocross of Nations. We were supposed to have a pre-test there because it was supposed to be very similar to what we were going to be racing at Motocross of Nations. And that's the only time that I had ever been to Carlsbad or ridden at Carlsbad. And that was 99.
Well, the bumps never changed.
Yeah.
The bumps were the same.
RJ, how you guys are, and Fro, I'm sure you raced there on minis and stuff, but dude, when we were testing there, RJ, I just it was like riding on concrete, and the whole time thinking, dude, I cannot fall. I cannot fall.
Oh, it hurts. I fell on the downhill on an 80.
Oh.
And I literally thought I was dying. I mean, I came off the jump and swapped and then high-sided, and then the bike hit me, and then I tumbled, the bike hit me again, and it's just grounding stuff up, and I'm trying to run to stop and then fall again. And I remember laying at the bottom crying, and the words were coming out of my mouth, I'm never racing again. I'm never racing again. Like, I was literally, this is it. I'm done. And
yeah, 99 was the only time that I had been there. You had to use the walls. You couldn't ride flat. You had to go from wall to wall to wall, ride the wall, and that's what I learned. That's how I learned to go faster. Was it a right-handed uphill?
Well, it went right, then left, then a right. Yeah, it was a zigzag.
Yeah, I remember that was so awesome.
Go on YouTube and check out 1986. Everyone put this down. 1986 Golden State Series. It's awesome.
You crashed and ripped yourself up real bad in one of the races.
No, that was the next year. But watch that race. You'll see Billy Frank take out Ward. He comes in and blows his feet off the pegs, and he just blasts Wardy in the mechanics turn and blows it.
Well, there was no place to go when you're there because the track was like cut into the clay, and that clay was so gnarly. You guys know I posted some clips on my Instagram last week. I got caught up on YouTube one night watching the U.S. Grand Prix. I believe it was 83, 84 are the ones I was watching. And you on a Yamaha, it would have been a 490 at the time.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there watching this going, no wonder you guys wore kidney belts. Like, holy shit. Like, this is insane. I can't, Ricky, you've never ridden a 500 two-stroke, huh?
Yeah, I did one time. I rode a KX 500.
Oh, yeah. But back in the days, there were like a toggle. It was like a light switch, right? The track was so dry. Most of the races were so dry, or it would be completely muddy. But it was gnarly.
It was, but that's the way our tracks were. Like, we had a place called Palm Avenue. You went down there, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, many times. Yeah. Hated it.
And we would see speeds of like 90 miles an hour on our 500s, because we had the stuff checking it, but our rear tires going like a buck 05 and stuff. And so it's just like you're just drifting the whole time. And that's where Southern California guys always did well at the San Diego, Anaheim, where they were slick. And then guys like RC go back east, a ton more gas and hammer it.
So your 83 might have even had a drum rear brake, or no? Or were they all disc brakes by then?
No, it had a drum rear brake with that floater long link that would get bent all the
Yeah.
time.
Well,
Full floater.
so when I go do the Vet Motocross of Nations over there in Farley, right? Ricky, you've been there, right?
No, I haven't been there.
Well, Ricky Johnson.
This one.
Sorry.
So I ride. So when I go there,
Little
Chris, yeah, little dick. Chris Rosenberger would set me up with this 570 4-stroke Husqvarna, and twin shock, drum brakes, and the thing is fast as can be, but it doesn't handle, it doesn't turn, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
But it's fast, and that's how those bikes were for you guys. It were just, the power was there, but there was the rest of the package just didn't exist.
Did you enjoy the 500, RJ?
No.
No.
I mean, well, I did in certain conditions. Like I did it. I like it's like mud. Did I enjoy mud? Not really. If I had my choice, but I'm gonna be better than you. That's the attitude that I had, just like you guys had. A champion has that attitude. If it rains, I'm gonna go faster in the mud. If it's dry, I'm gonna be faster on the dry. So I did like the challenge of that, but I enjoyed the pace and the cadence of the 250. Especially like in 86, 87, 88. Obviously when I was strong. Because you rode the shit out of them. You really charged the corner, entering the corners. Well, on the 500, you pulled in the clutch early, and you kind of coaxed it through the middle and carry the exit and stuff like that. That's where you saw, like Osho was able to beat Dave Thorpe in Majora, because Osho would be like, bah, here comes the turn. He's like, bah, wide open all the way to the turn, bah, and right into it. Where Dave Thorpe, you're like coming down, you don't want to stall them because they're a bitch to start once they're hot, and so it's a different riding technique. So I enjoyed the challenge of it, but I would pick the 250 over the 500.
Nice.
Hmm.
Hey, one thing, RJ, that I wanted to talk to you about, and one thing that I really respected the hell out of you for was not only your two-wheel accomplishments, but what you were able to do four-wheel. I mean, that's just where, you were so talented, and all the things that you were able to accomplish on four wheels. And I always just wonder, like, clearly you have no regrets in two wheels, but do you ever wish that maybe you could have got on four wheels at a younger age and seen what you could have done?
No. I had a plan. So, like, I started watching, I think it was in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
I started taking driving schools because I was watching how young guys are retiring in motocross and all that. And I'm noticing that back then, man, NASCAR guys were like 50 some years old, fat, out of shape, and this and that. And I'm like, I can get into that. And then I really wanted to get into GP racing. So the people from Bell put me through Sears Point School, a Bob Bondurant school.
Yeah.
And then they put me through a Skip Barber school back in Bridgehampton, New York, which was awesome. And then them and a couple other people sponsor. I did a race in 1987 at the Del Mar. Was a GTP race, and I did a Barber Saab race. And so I felt that cars were going to be the way to go when I was done. But when I would drive cars, I enjoyed it, but I just didn't get that. And that's what breaks my heart today, that I can only ride. I can ride maybe 30% of what I was at my peak. And that's if the conditions are right, because with my hand not being able to hold on and all the different stuff. And that's why I'm doing more dual sport and adventure riding, and I stay away from the tracks. But anyways, I love the fact of using my body at a young age and being able to feel that, because you guys both know like the pain that you feel in the last 4 laps at Southwick. Your nose is full of sand. Even if you had a whole shot, you've been passing lappers and shit. You're dying for around the track, no matter what. Even if you're in front, just the pain that you felt, and then the feeling of accomplishment when you were done. I love that. I loved and hated that pain. Like, I would sit on the line afraid of it, knowing it's coming. But when you survive that kind of discomfort, and I don't want this to be too much of a blowing smoke up each other's ass, but that race at Indianapolis, David Villeman had you beat.
Oh, yeah.
He was on fire that night.
Yeah.
And you kept coming. He surrendered, man. He gave up. And I remember I went up to you after race. I was working for a school at the time doing autographs. And I said, that was phenomenal. And you looked at me and you go, I was going to hit the wall. I was going to blow up, or I was either going to die or I was going to win. And I was like, I wanted to cry, because it's like, that's the spirit that we haven't seen in the sport for, well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody pushes hard and all the different stuff, but you had that ability to push harder, than I think that a lot of people. That was the tenacity, because you weren't the most stylish guy. I mean,
No.
Your elbows were in, and you were just fast. Your style was just brutal speed, and that. But that's so that, once again, long answer to your short question. I wanted to go longer in moto. I wanted to do my 3 years, and then I wanted to go to Europe, because I wanted an American to kick ass in Europe. I didn't want them to survive. I wanted them to crush them. So my plan was to do my 3 years, do 89, 90, 91, and then go live in Europe, because I was mature enough at the time. And I'm like, you know what? I can live in Europe. I can do this. Because, man, if you had dropped, some of these guys that go there at a young age, and you don't have the Chick-fil-A's and the conveniences that you're used to, it would be really hard. But I knew that I was going to be mature enough, and then the wheels fell off.
Man, RJ, I was thinking the same thing going into 2000. My plan was to race 3 more years here in the U.S. I was in the best shape, best mindset that I had ever been in. And then I wanted to go, run the red, white, and blue in Europe to finish up my career.
Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest regrets is going. I always wanted to win a GP. I don't know that I wanted to stay there the whole year. Now, at the time, that's what I wanted to do. Now, looking back, and that I've been to Europe a lot more times and really enjoy it there, I don't know. I wish I would have went and raced some GPs and won some GPs, and like you're saying, RJ, is go there and just really be dominant, like you were in the States, like I was, Jeff, like you were in your prime as well. Is go there and just be able to display over there what we're able to do here on a week in, a week out basis.
Yeah.
RJ, you were part of a generation that was really fortunate to be a part of the creation of some of these legendary Supercross events, whether it was in Japan, Osaka, and Tokyo, or over in France, like Bercy, in what I would say the creation of the real heydays. And when I came in right there at the end, you were actually, my beginning was the end of your career. To see what those races were like was just incredible. I mean, I would see it in pictures, and my first time was in 1990 going to Bercy, and it was like, I mean, to win at those races was really special. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that was the thing, is like, we went to Japan in 1982. Like, they didn't know about dirt compound. It was gravel. It got really rutted and it fell apart. And they had wood jumps. They had wood up and over, and with wood slits. And the Japanese riders do nothing about timing jumps and all the different stuff. And that's the thing, is that, you kind of say I'd rather be lucky than good, because I was born into a time when America was going to be the best riders on the planet because of the invention of Supercross, that we had to learn how to do seat hops and do all this stuff, and wheeling and landing on the front wheel and doing a lot of different stuff, where GPs weren't that. GPs was set back traction, front wheel floats, do its thing, and learn to slide and all the different stuff. So I was part of an era that was evolving constantly. Like, every test session that we were out there with Johnny and David and Mickey or George Holland or whatever, Jeff Least, someone would do something new. Someone would do a jump a certain way. You're like, hey, what the hell was that? And so then now you have to go do it. And then what about this? Well, so-and-so's jumping 5 into the whoops. No freaking way. Then they do it. No, someone's blitzing across the tops and all these different things. So all these techniques were so new. Now they're kind of, you blitz.
Yeah, it's very much everybody would do the same thing, right?
Yeah. rarely do you see it, but you'll see some whoop sections go to shit. Then a guy goes into wheel tapping a couple, then timing a couple, then that goes into like Marvin doing 3-3 or 4-4, whatever the case may be. But back then it was like, what do you think we can do here? I don't know. Let's try it,
Dude,
So
that
those
is,
were
that
cool
is
times.
so cool to be in that time and experience that progression, and even the bikes too, I'm sure we're making leaps and bounds at the time, from whether it was braking, engine performance, chassis performance. I mean, and like you said, from Supercross, I mean, I can, if you go on YouTube and you watch, the 87 season and then you go to 92, 93, look at the progression, just, and like you said, people don't realize it now, but landing front wheel first, like that, like to me and probably others, now younger than me are thinking like, what do you mean?
Duh.
Starting to land front wheel first.
Well, but you couldn't either. I mean, the fork tubes
Right.
were tiny. What are they, 43s or something back then?
They were
40s?
tiny. You're absolutely right. And the thing was, I was talking with Weege about this, is blitzing through whoops. And they said, who was the first one to do it? And it was actually Keith Bowen. Keith Bowen just hung his ass complete. Like, if you did this today, you'd die. But how he did it, he just shot his ass completely off the back, legs extended, everything extended, and he just went straight across the top. And we're like, holy cow. Because he literally made up 4 seconds. So
but knowing Keith, the first time he did it, he probably didn't mean to.
right. But then he did it a second time, and then he tried it the third time, and just gigantic get off. But now you're like, it's possible. So now you had to learn to have a body position that was strong, but not too heavy rear wheel, but low in case you got pitched over the bar so you can handle it. So you had to try all these different things, and the only way you try it is by doing it and busting your ass. You go, well, that didn't work. Well, that didn't work. So there's a lot of collarbones at that time because just bam, right into the whoop. But
yeah, but you would have been a part of a lot of innovation in the bikes, like the boost bottle, the power valve on the engine, going from conventional forks to upside down forks, disc brakes, all the linkage, different variations of linkage throughout the 80s. We went from the 18-inch rear wheel to the 19-inch rear wheel. Which year was that?
that was in
88.
That was 1988, and I ran. So here's a cool story about that. Just this one deal. So Dunlop and Frank Stacy was the Dunlop guy at the time. Rick Bogdan was there. He was the hat guy, but Frank Stacy was the guy. The guy was a genius. He was a great rider back in his day, but he really knew tires, and I credit a lot of stuff to him. But anyways, he comes up and he's got this 19-inch tire, and it's completely hand cut. So I ran it for probably 5 or 6 Supercross races, but we had a different. So it just looked different.
Oh, so different. I remember seeing it.
It was hand cut, and so at the LA Coliseum, Keith McCarty walks by, and he goes, "Can I say the F word? You MF, blah blah blah. You've been running a 19-inch the whole time." They just thought it was a prototype 18-inch tire, and it looked smaller. But then all of a sudden, Keith McCarty was the first one to figure out on an opposite team that I was running the 19-inch wheel. And for Supercross, what it made was it made responsive quicker, and then it also, with it being a shorter sidewall and stuff, it set quicker. You know, for a 500, and I still think on 450 outdoor, I would run an 18-inch tire. It gives you a little bit more cushion. It calms down the back a little bit. And I honestly think if you took a guy in the outdoor, especially like in the GPs, put him on an 18-inch, he would like that little extra weight because it kind of just mellowed it out. But for Supercross and stuff, the 19 was the way to go.
God, think about it, RC. Like,
dude,
how much? Like, you go out to test sessions, and it's not like, oh, we got 10 different cylinders with different porting. It's like, oh, look at this different chassis or this other shit that's completely crazy. And especially being on factory Honda in the mid '90s, where the work spikes were like in full force. I mean, they were hand built machines. It had to be really, really
mid '80s.
cool to look. Yeah, mid '80s. Sorry, yeah, mid '80s.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine. I mean, Osho's told me some stories, RJ, and it's just like, dude, I'm sure you guys have seen some of the coolest stuff ever as far as innovation goes. I mean, there was probably no expense being spared at that point at HRC. No.
Yeah, so they did the bait and switch with me in 1985. I rode Ronnie Lacheyne's bike, and I literally adjusted the bars, and Tano was there from Showa, set the sag, and I went out, and I could ride my practice bike fast. I mean, I could go, half a second off my race bike pace, which at Yamaha wasn't that much better anyways. And I got on that bike, and I was 3 seconds a lap, legit. And I would come into the holes, and I go like that. It would go poof. I'm like, holy cow, because I just had to take my Yamahas with the Simon's anti-cav kits and just make them really stiff to where I could, could handle the thing. But then we went to production bikes. But one of the coolest feeling that I ever had at Honda, because when we rode at Yamaha, we get a bike, we get a new bike, we would ride it, we'd go practice on it and have fun on it. And then we would go to the test session and they would put the pipe and the cylinder and the different stuff on it and modify it while you were sitting there waiting to go. And so I go up to Simi Valley. I get there, I unload my bike, I set it there, and I see Jim Felt and Cliff Whiter there. And David and Johnny's bikes are like completely mixed with the disc brake front and rear, the bitch and pipe, the magnesium Honda HRC case. And I'm just like, I'm going to be here all day while they work on my bike. Then Lannis pulls up, unloads my brand new bike. And I was just like, I got a new bike. And so to have that feeling, and that's what I loved about Honda. Because if you think about it, all right, and I credit Roger and Dave Arnold. A lot of people don't give Dave Arnold the credit that he deserved. That guy was just the balance, the way he talked to the riders, the way he communicated. Then the Roger was there as well. But I was like, the Honda power is just like, rut, it hits so hard. And I went and got with Mitch Payton. He had a gas welder, a bunch of pipes, cut them up, and we went and came up with a pipe that gave me more of that Yamaha feel, because the Yamaha had that rolling power valve. So it gave you a real smooth roll-on power, where the Honda hit really hard, had way more power, and was way faster. And that's what a lot of people like that. But I wanted that roll-on. And I went to Honda and said, I want to race with this Pro Circuit pipe. And they didn't even hesitate. They said yes. I mean, think about that. I mean, there was no 1-800 Collect or Monster, Red Bull. It was Honda. All Honda. Dunlop basically gave us tires, and I think gave me $8,000 or something like that. And then I had my riding gear sponsors. And so for them to allow me, and that's the power that Roger and Dave had, and that Honda was willing to adapt to bring in other things was, and once again, I was blessed, the right place at the right time, because I tried to do stuff at Yamaha, and that's why I left. We were in Sweden. I tried Brock was doing a Supercross, and I tried the Öhlins upside down forks. I'm like, they're awesome. Like they don't flex. I can ride hard. I can go faster, this and that. Let's run them. They go, no, it's not production. I'm like, there's no production rule. Let's run them. They go, no. That was it. That was the nail in the coffin why I left Yamaha, because the parts were there. They just wouldn't admit that was they wouldn't admit defeat to there's something better than stock.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, RJ's got a zillion stories. I'm not going to end. I'm going to end on a good note, but we do need to cover something that you and I talked about this morning. It's obvious. We've been going for about 45 minutes right now. You're 55 years old. You haven't raced professional motocross since 91.
Yep.
I mean, your passion for the sport, for racing in general. I know you race off-road trucks and like anything that you can. But your passion is just, it just shines through. And, you and I both have something in common that really our career had, we had something kind of take it away from us. And I know that was really tough for you, especially knowing how competitive you are and how much you thrived on that, how much, even talking about your passion for, I love the last 4 laps at Southwick, with the sand in my mouth and nose and sand in my butt crack, but you really lived for that. But with your wrist injury, you tried for a couple of years, but you eventually had to give it up. What was that time period like?
And that's what we talked about, the darkness, and that's the thing that people don't realize. And Ricky, you had sort of a storybook, deal. We'll get to yours after I'm done, but when it's over, it's over. It's death. And so I said, Fro said, "What do you guys want to talk? What do you want to talk about?" I said, "The beginning and the end." He's like, "Death." I'm like, "Well, no, the end of racing, but it's like dying, because when you don't go back to what it's very, very dark." So for me, I tried everything, man. I had people coming and praying on me and anointing me with oil, and I was just doing all this crazy stuff. And I tried to have surgeries, and I was doing therapy all the time. I leaned myself down. I got down to where I was like 172, just skin and bones. I'm like, I gotta make up for it this way.
Did you have Weiner bring over the pyramid?
I should have done some pyramid. That was, that would have been a good one for me. But when I finally, I raced racing to San Diego. I went to go over the triple jump, and back then, get this, they had a triple jump that went into a whoop section, like hit the brakes and go down to second gear and double until later on to when they broke down. I landed off of that and I cased it, and my hand went wide open. And now I'm sitting on the back fender, coming at a brand new whoops wide open. I hit him. I'm not kidding, guys. It hit me in the ass so hard, knocked the wind out of me. I cleared all the whoops. I cleared the turn, and I landed in the first the dugout where the batting thing, those orange rocks, and I hit the plywood, and I fell down there, and I was like making that terrible sound that we make when we hit really hard. Because I don't know if I broke my neck, my whatever. I just hurt everywhere. And this Mexican guy comes and pulls up the window and goes, "You all right, man?" I'm like, "Get me out of here." So I get out of there and I tell Ron Heben my throttle's stuck, and he's like, "No, throttle didn't stick," and blah, blah. Anyhow, I do the race. I'm a fraction of what I could be. Like, I think I got top 10 or something. And anyhow, so we go to Japan. I do a race there. Great thinking. One weekend off, we go to Japan and race the Big Egg. I come back. Well, I missed my flight going to Atlanta. And I went out riding, and when I landed off a jump, whoa, the throttle stuck. And I'm thinking, as I'm going flying through these woods, what? I haven't had a throttle stick since I was like 10. How is this happening twice? And so I just let go of the handlebar. So what was happening is I would land, and my hand would just like spaz out on me, and it would like slide forward, re-grip. And I never thought that I'd let go of the grip, and I was going wide open. And so at that point, I knew that I was either going to kill myself or hurt somebody else. Like I honestly had a thought of, what if I come off a jump and I T-bone a Ronnie Tishner or some young up-and-comer and ruin his career because I can't do this. And so I went to Wyoming. I went to another doctor, and they all said I was done. And when I said it was over, I just had this dark moment, like, fuck, life is over. This is all I've done. This is who I've identified with from the time I was a little kid. I was a 3-year-old kid riding the mini bike up and down the street. So I was a cool kid riding a mini bike. I was a cool kid. I was all my accolades and everybody. What I found out, the reason why a lot of people like me was because I rode a motorcycle fast. And now that's gone. So now who am I? What am I? And all this stuff. And I'm going to say my wife probably agree, a nervous breakdown. I was going in to get my wrist fused right after, because when I realized that I couldn't race anymore, I wanted to get because it hurt so bad. It hurt really bad. And I tore myself up with anti-inflammatories and stuff. But we're literally, it was after the surgery. I'm coming out and I'm finally gonna get something to eat, and it's like late at night, and I go, okay, let's go to Burger King. She's driving me, and literally in the Burger King thing, I lose my effing mind. I start screaming and crying, and why the fuck do these people deserve this? This guy's an asshole. He's blah, blah. I'm doing everything right. I'm praying. I'm trying to be a good guy. I'm trying to be a good example. I'm trying, what? And it's just like, whoa, it came out of me. Now, was that the last one I ever had? No. But what I did realize is that to really appreciate racing, you just got to take it for that moment. Like I said, that the last 5 laps, you can't think about the checkered flag when there's 5 laps to go. When you can't breathe, you got to get to the next turn, the next turn, the next turn. And so through all of that, it was a really dark time, because the phone quit ringing. I used to come home and have a 90-minute cassette tape full of messages of people that wanted to hang out and party. All right. 3 weeks after I get my wrist broken, I come home. I'm like, it's got to be broken. Something must be wrong. And then you hit the button that says you got no messages. And then you go to the races, and people are like, they shrug you off. And so it breaks your heart, because you start to learn that who was really there for you, and who loved you for you, and who loved you because you were the popular kid on the block. And so going through that dark time, I'll be honest with you, I had a couple times where I thought of, sucking on a gun pistol, and actually came a little closer than I really should have. And then I thought, why? Why? Because I can't race motorcycles anymore. I can't be popular anymore. I'm not making the money that I made anymore. And once you get through that, we've lost some great people to suicide. One being Marty Moats was very close to me. And don't joke, we talk about it. If he would have missed the things that he would have said the next day. And that's the thing, is that my life has been so full. Ricky, you talking, I'm not just talking racing, but Ricky, you said, racing trucks. The satisfaction that I've gotten this age of racing trucks against CJ Greaves and Johnny Greaves and Rob McCacker and all these different guys, and racing as hard as I can with no excuses. I'm not going, oh, my wrist, because I hated that. But then I was able to be there for my kids, when they were born. And when I thought it was miserable and I didn't have a ride, I didn't have this and that, but I was a dad. I was able to be there for them and help them, hopefully, when they get older, that they'll be like, you know what, I'm grateful for that time that you were home. So it doesn't matter where you're at. When you're done riding, it breaks your heart, because let's face it, guys. I know both of you guys were the same as me. You were that little afro with the red hair, but when you were out there riding in your field, it didn't matter if it was Supercross jumps or just going around cones in your yard, you were somebody. And it just and when that goes away, a good friend of mine, Chris Cole, who never made it, he helps out a lot of different guys and stuff in the Supercross. But when he quit, same thing, dark times, man. And so the other thing is, hey, it's going to be there for you. If you're a Supercross champion, you're the GOAT or whatever you are. If you're a little dick, it doesn't matter. You're going to go through some dark times in your life. Just get through it.
Yeah. When, I did my back there in 2000, did my wrist and then my back to back. And then I made the decision to hang it up. I always had the feeling that something was going to change and I would come back and race. And I've told the story a couple of times, but so this would have been 2000, 2001. So I was leaving the last Anaheim of 2002, and I'd parked out by the hatch, in the VIP section, we had suite and all this sort of stuff. And walking out with my wife at the time, or she was my girlfriend at the time. And I stop and I look back and I could see, it was kind of dark outside the stadium, but the light was coming up from inside, right? And I look at her and I say, wow, I'm never going to race again, am I? And she's like, no. And I remember letting go. Dude, it's been 2 years already. And there was still a piece of me that was like, oh, something will happen. I'll go, I'll be back. Even though I was permanently retired. But there was something in there maybe your head had let go, but your heart hadn't yet. And you didn't have that choice either. But I really appreciate your honesty here. I didn't expect to hear this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that was, I think I certainly appreciate it. And thank you for sharing that. My story is a lot different, guys. We don't need to sit here and talk about it. You guys, the story is way better than mine. It truly is. It is.
Your story's a lot better than ours.
Well,
right.
No, and I'll tell you guys why. I think that your guys is more real. And the reason is because you guys experienced true life things that happened to probably more than what we really know. And, for me, I had made the decision that when I signed with Suzuki, I had that third year as an option to race full time. So I had time to prepare for that. And honestly, when I signed my Suzuki deal, I was done at that point. I knew I had a belly full. But I was fortunate. I didn't have many injuries, and I competed at a high level. I got great results for a very long time, and I was done really. And motocross is the only thing I knew. I don't know if it was something that I really enjoyed as much as I probably should have. I enjoyed winning. I love the battles, but as far as everything else, it was just like a job to me.
Yeah.
So, my story is a little bit different, but I feel like your guys is more real. And for me, I have so much appreciation for what you guys were able to accomplish and go through, that I love hearing those stories. Yeah, it sucks, but yours guys, everything happened abruptly for you guys. And honestly, I don't know how I would handle that. I haven't been in that situation. I would just have to I would probably reach out to you guys, and say, hey, what did you do in a time like this? And anyone who I shouldn't offer your guys' help to anyone, but if people are struggling with decisions that they need to make, call your friends or call people who have been in that moment. Just like if you were calling any of us for riding tips, call people, man.
Yeah, that was the thing when Marty died. We made a pat around some other people, and then I made this literally with my kids, and they were young when Marty killed himself, and so Scott Cox said to me, he says, let's make a deal. I said, what's that? And he said, if you're ever feeling like you're at that end, you know what I mean? Just you think this is the time. And I said this at Marty's funeral. I said, if you ever feel like you're at that end, promise me to call somebody. Doesn't have to be me. Just call somebody and let them know where you're at that time. At the end of it, you have the choice to do what you have to do, but reach out. Don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. Just reach out and let somebody try to talk to you, and help you through those hard times. And as we said, we've seen some guys go through motocross because the highs that we get to emotionally, physically, all these different things. And then all of a sudden you go to doing what, it's like, what's going to give you that high? So you drugs, alcohol, whatever, the list goes on and on, whatever it might be. So yeah, I agree with you. Be willing to reach out.
Some years ago when I retired, the 250 Grand Prix world champion, Jackie Vermont, somebody that you would know really well. It was right around the time when I had retired. He said, look, when you are younger and you start riding motorcycles, you're riding for the love of it. He goes, and then you start racing, and all of a sudden you love the competition and you love the victory and you crave that part of it. He goes, and then when you stop racing, and Jackie's career got taken away from him also, as all of a sudden there's a bit of a void. And he says, so if you want to still be a motorcyclist, you have to find the love of riding a motorcycle again, right? I know I certainly have done that. And so I was going to, catch up with you, Ricky, about where you're at now and what you're doing just as far as two wheels right now.
Well, so we're starting, I have a place down in the desert. I've been doing the military training for a while. We teach guys that have never ridden Navy. I had a 5-year contract teaching Navy SEALs how to ride, and then also other special forces guys around the world. Also doing the trucks, the off-road recovery. I have a partner, Jeff Benrud, in North Carolina. You guys maybe rode at his track Wide Open back in the day, up there in Rayford. And so we work with military special forces. But since then, I went and did the KTM Adventure Challenge in Australia with Jeff Leask and Toby Price and Butch Rosie and Sack and Paige and all these different people. And I realized how much I really enjoyed adventure bike riding. I don't mind riding on the roads, getting to sightsee, getting to do what I want to do. And then also I've been riding recently dual sport, which I love because I can just get out. I can go put on a pair of boots, set of gloves, goggles, helmet, and just go ride. I leave my house. And you know where I live, Jeff, over here in La Cresta. There's some trails and there's some legal roads. There's a legal off-road park, and I'll just go ride a little bit. And what I can do and what it does for my mind and my body and my spirit and everything, my soul, in a 20-minute ride, let's say today it might be 80-20 asphalt. Tomorrow it might be 80-20 dirt. but I get out and I ride. And so what I'm realizing is that a lot of people, you have two camps. You have the Harley guy or the road guy that says, I'm not getting in the dirt because I'm going to bust my ass. And then you have dirt guys that go, I'm not getting on the road because I don't want to get run over. And this dual sport gives you a chance to stay local, find some trails, find some stuff, get out and ride, have a good time. I go out with Johnny Campbell and Quinn Cody and some of the guys from Builtwell and stuff, is getting out and riding. So I'm creating Johnson Off-Road Group. I'm going to do dual sport and adventure bike schools. We also do side-by-sides, with the Honda Talons and the different stuff. So I have a place down in Ocotillo Wells that I can do tours/schools. I mean, there's great schools out there. I'd say do as many as you can, but I want to get people and just introduce them to off-road riding in Southern California. So I've actually even started my book during this time, Ricky Johnson, How to Ride a Dirt Bike. So I'm halfway through. I've done starts. Now I'm working on turns.
All right, man,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. We gotta. How can we get in on some of that off-road riding?
Easy. Just, you know where I'm at. I'll either come to you. I'm actually going to go out with the guys from Builtwell tomorrow and do a little ride. We're starting at 5 o'clock out east of Temecula and go for a little spin. But
Oh, it's good out
I know
there.
we can't do this forever, but I'd like to bring up 2 races for you guys that remind me. And one, Fro, is the U.S. Open. What did that mean to you?
Well, 99, yeah. I mean, if you remember, that was the time period for the fans that don't know. I had lost my ride with Factory Kawasaki, got in trouble down in Lake Havasu, had a little bit of marijuana and stuff on me. Wasn't legal at the time. Really was heading down the wrong roads, and Bruce Sternstrom and Kawasaki decided to let me go. So I kind of start to retool my life and started my own race team and whatnot, and went to the U.S. Open of Supercross. Ricky was really it was the time where he was really starting to progress as a big bike rider, and not the biggest race in the world. Wasn't like winning the Supercross championship, just 2 nights. Ricky and I go 1-2. But winning that event for me, I needed it so bad with my life and where I was going. I was searching, like literally, asking God to help me find a path. And and then I just found some clarity and was able to win that event. And as it turns out, that was my last professional win. And so it meant quite a lot to me.
And was the helmet a reference to winners take all?
No, I had talked to Troy Lee, so I was wearing Fox helmets at the time, and we were doing the World Motocross Championship also. So basically we did Saporides, 3 World Championship rounds, and then the U.S. Open of Supercross. So about 5 races. And I just wanted like the whole Captain America. I just wanted something very America. And so, of course, Troy Lee is the guy. Just tell him what you're looking for, and he whips it up.
Awesome. And then, Ricky, when we were there, which, a lot of people give credit to like Bailey and the Tampa races and the battles. But to me, one of the most amazing races I ever watched, and I don't think I ever told you this, is when you and James and Chad came down to Vegas. And the 3 of you guys got out and you were in front. And Jeremy and McGrath and I were just like, and I got lap times and lap times and lap times and lap times. And it went from 0.3 of a second to 1/10. 0.3, 1/10, 0.3, 1/10. The 3 of you guys went so fast, and that track was so slick. I don't know if you remember, we talked about the whoops and rolling off the gas a little bit, and you guys were impeccable. All 3 of you guys really, all 3 deserve to win, but there is one winner. You got the start, you got out front, and those guys could never get close enough to dive bomb you or take a shot at you. So it like for some people that don't appreciate the game, it's like, God, I want them to hit each other. It's like McGrath and I were both just in awe of how good you guys rode. So what did it feel like having that kind of pressure? Whoever wins is going to bring that home. You're in front. It's slicker than shit. You have this 450 with all this horsepower, and you got to be smooth and keep your shit together.
Well, I just honestly, I had to take everything that I had learned from all of my mentors, things that you had told me, Johnny O had told me, Jeff has told me. I mean, teammates, people that I looked up to, I took their information and I really talked myself into it. And I never been like that kind of a mental guy. Like I didn't need to talk to myself throughout the week and say, man, I'm going to win, blah, blah, blah. How I prepared during the week physically on the machine is how I got my results on the weekend. But that week in particular, I had to talk to myself. I was trying anything. I was going to a place that I knew I had always been beaten by Chad Reed. And I wasn't going to accept anything less than victory. And I positioned myself. I played defense on the start. I listened to yourself and the advice that you gave me through the whoops. Don't get the tires spinning, be right here, bowl your corners. Anytime the tire slips, you're losing time. And I thought about those things, and I'll never forget this until the day I leave this world. And we're lined up for the main event. James and I are further to the inside than Chad, and Chad was way over to the outside. I'm like, man, that's pretty aggressive for a 90-degree first corner. I know for sure if I get the jump, I'm gonna go straight to the bales, and I'm sure James is gonna do the same thing. And so I thought right there, like that's where the victory started. I'm like, he opened the door for me before the gate has even dropped. And then once I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to beat James outright if we got 1-2 unless he fell down. He's just too good. So my main thing was I couldn't let Chad beat me. So I'm like, okay, hopefully James and I can get 1-2 and we can get Chad, a couple guys behind us. And if James gets in front of me, I'm going to do everything I can do to stay right on his rear wheel so we can pull away from Chad. And then, halfway through, I can kind of just maintain that gap. Dude, and it worked out perfectly. And yes, I think even though I didn't win that race, I won the championship. Even though I didn't win it, it still was an incredible feeling because we were all riding perfect and we were hitting our marks. And I don't know that there's anything that I could have done different to better my position that night. I just, but I had my strategy. I stuck to it. I never wavered. And I took everything that I had ever learned from all these great mentors and people that I looked up to and applied it to a time where you needed to use all those tricks.
Well, and that's the thing that the young guys that are listening to this, I mean, you're listening to a guy that's won everything, and he had a plan. It wasn't, well, I'm gonna huck it into the first turn and see what happens. It's like, if I'm here, I'm breaking hard going to the inside. If he's there, I'm taking him to the bales. If I'm doing, all of these different things. And that's the thing that I think a lot of the young riders don't. They think it just happens. I mean, how many championships and how many wins? It doesn't just happen. Yeah. There's a lot of work that goes into it.
Yep.
Well, I was there that night. Ralph Sheen and Denny Stevenson were up in the broadcast booth, and I was in the broadcast booth watching. And at the end of that race, I came down onto the track. And so, Ricky, you went up to the team and did all that. Then you start to take off with your helmet off. I'm not sure if you remember this, but you got your helmet off. You're going to do a parade lap, and he stops on top of the jump, RJ, because I ran out to the track, like give him a big hug, and the intensity on his face, it gives me goosebumps right now thinking about it. I can still remember. You're like, I effing did it. I can't believe it, dude. Can you believe it? I effing did it. Like you. There's almost a part of you that didn't expect to win, and that wasn't really the norm for you. Normally you were expecting yourself to win, but that night, I mean, we've talked many times about how you doubted yourself so much, and that's where you really had to mentally talk yourself into this win and eventually the AMA title.
Yeah, I was so scared of losing, like my whole career. Honestly, I had a fear inside of me, and I raced scared. Like, dude, I hope this isn't the weekend that this person finally figures out how to beat me and can do it every weekend from here on out through the rest of my career. I raced scared. Was it a motivation? Of course it was. It worked for me. It might not work for everybody else, but people are like, what? And now you go to a psychologist, they're going to say, man, you can't race that way. You got to tell yourself you're the best. But
I'm
I
scared
think
to
there's
death.
a fine line, you know, like if you ain't the best realistically, then you just got to face the music at some point, right?
Well, yeah, and you got to find a way to beat them. And so, I mean, Fro, you have to admit you were scared to death of losing. I mean, I didn't want to lose because it wasn't about money. I was afraid of letting everybody down. All the Honda people, everybody that believes in you, all the way down to my friends. I had friends. We had different camps of friends in El Cajon, and I didn't want my friends to be able to say, Lacheyne's friends could say he kicked my ass, or Brock's friends said he could kick my ass. So all those people weighed on me, and I was like, I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail. I would love winning. Don't get me wrong. It was fun, and it felt good, and you made money and this and that. But the fear of losing is what motivated me.
RJ, you once told me, you said, you need to get to a place where you pull up to the starting line and you take a look down that way, you take a look down that way, and you say to yourself, ain't nobody fucking beat me today. And I had a couple of those. RJ, I'm sure you did. Ricky, I'm sure you did. I think of us all three as being extremely fortunate in the sport of Supercross and motocross.
Yeah. When you have that feeling, and I think the biggest thing is, as you know, is the fear of getting tired. You know, because once I realized that I could go wide open the whole race and I wasn't going to get tired, I realized no one's going to beat me. I mean, yeah, you get a bad start, Wardy gets the whole shot. It's going to be hard to catch him because you're working through traffic. Or same thing with Bailey or O'Mara or Brock, or if a guy gets a whole shot and you're stuck in the back, you're limited on what you can do. In certain times, there's other times where you can fight your way up there and find some time, but that is a cool feeling to have when you look down. And that I had that in '88 at Daytona. I just knew, I'm like, I just got to make it through the first turn without being upside down, and I'm going to crush everybody. And that's a feeling that's good to feel one time in your life. And I think that everybody has these moments in their life, but it might not be in front of a gazillion people, or in front of all, fans, all different stuff. But we all know when we feel greatness, just a little bit, like, I mean, all the way down to announcing and stuff. When you flow something and it feels good, when you did a good job, it feels great to experience that.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, as a little kid, I was a little kid on that bike too, just like the picture that you showed. And, I looked up to you. I'm sure I had pictures of you on my walls and watched you race many, many times. I would have never dreamed that now I could call you my friend and then to have you on Real Talk here with Ricky and I. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. It's also was an honor to be a part of the Motocross of Nations Legends Dinner at Redbud a couple of years with you. And then just a month and a half ago down in Daytona for the 50th anniversary.
No, and honestly, as I said, I'm so proud of you guys. But you know what? Now, you guys remember we go to Europe, right? And you get start money for the different things. And so, I want to thank Ping for setting me up with a power dot and a bitchin' coffee mug from Fire Department Coffee and stuff. And he didn't win any championships. And so,
hey, I just got my shipment yesterday from him too.
There you go. So I'm so excited for the UPS guy to come, because as many championships as you guys have, it could be a bike.
Oh, wait a minute.
It might be a hush. No, you're not breaking up, Ricky. You can hear me.
No, I was going to tell you the semi should be there shortly delivering your gift.
I'll have my mask on. I'll be down there. I'll be waiting. But I can't wait to get all the goodies from my car.
Hey, Fro, you know what? He is going to have the first ever merch that we ever make for Real Talk 447. He can use it to wipe his butt, whatever he needs, but he will be the first one. I think we need to make one hot off the press here soon as business gets back rolling.
Real Talk, start money. But guys, hey, thank you so much. Once again, I'm honored to be on this with you guys. I'm glad that I was somebody that hopefully you could look up to and that helped you want to be a motorcycle racer. You know what I mean? Because we're all different size, shapes, and all the different stuff, but it's the love of riding bikes. And if I motivated you in some way, I'll go to sleep better at night knowing that.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, Ricky, I'm sure that this is just part one because your life and your career and all the things that you've done. I mean, we could go on for hours about this, but we really appreciate you being on. RC, you got anything else? You
I mean, you took the words out of my mouth, RJ. Just you really inspire everybody. Thank you for everything you've always done for me. Really look up to you. Not only, like I said, not only for your two-wheel career, but your four-wheel career also. I mean, you're a hell of a talent. What you've been able to do, your broadcasting also. I mean, across the board, you've always elevated the game. You carry yourself well. You speak clear, and a lot of people look up to you. And I think that our viewers and listeners are really going to appreciate your stories. And thank you for being so honest and giving us your time today.
I'm honored.
Thanks.
Guys.
All right. Well, thanks to all of our listeners and viewers around the world. Of course, our sponsors, RockyMountainATVMC.com, Slick Products, IMIG Pro Grips, and RC4 Handlebars by ODI Grips, and also Fox Racing for everything that they do for us. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment below. Tell your friends about it. Pass it on. Retweet it. RJ, we appreciate you being on, brother.
Love you, man. Take care, Raz.
All right, and as always, we're going to take you away with the Andrew McKeague Band and This Old Lie. See you guys.